Have you ever found yourself stuck in a never-ending spiral of thoughts? That inner voice that whispers doubts, fears, and catastrophic scenarios that drain your energy and steal your peace? If you're watching this video, you probably know that intimate and painful feeling of having your own mind as your enemy. But what if I told you that there's an ancient way, tested by Roman emperors, freed slaves and philosophers who faced the greatest adversities in human history, to not only silence these thoughts, but transform them into fuel for your growth? In the next few minutes, I'm going to unlock 10 mental codes that the Stoics discovered over 2,000 years ago. Codes that have the power to completely reprogram your relationship with your own thoughts. I'm not talking about superficial techniques or empty mantras. I'm talking about a profound transformation in the architecture of your mind. By the end of this video, you will no longer be the same person. You will have in your hands practical tools that philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca used to maintain serenity in the midst of life's most devastating storms. Prepare to discover that your negative thoughts are not your masters. You are the architect of your own mental experience. Every code we unlock today will be a key that will open doors to a stronger, wiser, more resilient version of yourself. Let's start our journey of transformation. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for an important appointment. Your mind races. I'm going to miss this opportunity. Everyone will judge me. I always mess up. Your heart races, your hands sweat, and you feel completely helpless. But 2,000 years ago, a Roman slave named Epictetus discovered something revolutionary. Even though he was the property of another man, he realized that he had something that no one could take away from him: the choice of how to react to any situation. This discovery would become the first and most powerful mindset of Stoicism. The dichotomy of control divides the entire universe into just two categories: what is under your control and what is not. And here is the first code being unlocked. 99% of your mental suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. The traffic? Out of your control. What other people think of you? Out of your control. The end result of that appointment? Out of your control. But your emotional response, your thoughts about the situation, your choice of how to spend that time, that's completely within your control. When you stop wasting mental energy on things outside of your control, something magical happens. All that energy is redirected to where it can really make a difference. Instead of mentally torturing yourself in traffic, you can use that time to better prepare for an appointment, practice a presentation, or simply choose calm. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the greatest empire in history, wrote in his personal diary, "Confine yourself to the present." He knew that even though he commanded legions, he could not control the outcome of battles, only their preparation and decisions. Here's your first practical exercise. Take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, list your 3 biggest current worries. On the right side, write down what is actually within your control in each situation. You'll be shocked to discover how much mental energy you've been wasting. This is the first unlocked code. When your negative thoughts arise, immediately ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, let it go. If it is, take action. It's simple, but it's not easy, and that's exactly why it's transformative. With this new clarity about what truly deserves your mental attention, you are ready to unlock the second code, one that will revolutionize how you interpret everything that happens in your life. Now that you understand what you can and cannot control, let's unlock the second code. Reality is not what happens to you, but how you interpret what happens to you. Marcus Aurelius, writing about his personal reflections, recorded one of the most powerful phrases in philosophy. Things do not disturb us, but our opinions about them do. Imagine the depth of that insight. A man who held the power of life and death over millions, recognizing that the real power lay in interpretation, not in events. Here's the second code being unlocked. Your negative thoughts are not about the situation, they're about your interpretation of the situation. And interpretations can be changed instantly. Think about the last time you were criticized. Your mind probably created narratives. They hate me, I'm a failure, everyone is against me. But what if I showed you a different perspective? What if that criticism was actually a gift? A free insight that could help you grow? The Stoics developed a technique called reframing before modern psychology even discovered the concept. They understood that every adverse situation carries within it the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. Lost your job? Opportunity to find something better aligned with your values. Ended a relationship? Chance to rediscover who you are outside of that dynamic. Dealing with an illness? Time to reconnect with what really matters in life. Seneca practiced a powerful exercise. At the end of each day, he would revisit difficult moments and deliberately look for the constructive side of each situation. Not as a denial of pain, but as a mental training to see possibilities where before he saw only problems. Your second exercise: think about something that is bothering you right now. Write down 3 different interpretations for that same situation. One that is neutral, one that is constructive, and one that turns the obstacle into an opportunity. You have just discovered that you have the power to choose which lens you use to view your life. This second unlocked code frees you from the prison of a single perspective and gives you the power to paint your experience with colors of your choosing. But even with mastery of control and perspective, some thoughts seem so convincing that they completely fool us. It's time to learn to question these masters of disguise. With the first 2 codes unlocked, you now know that you can control your reactions and choose your perspectives. But how do you deal with thoughts that seem so convincing, so real, that they completely dominate your mind? Here we find Socrates, the teacher from Athens who revolutionized human thought with a simple discovery: most of the things we believe have never really been questioned. His technique became legendary, asking questions that revealed the fragility of our certainties. The Stoics adapted this wisdom to create the third mindset: not everything your mind produces is true, useful, or worthy of your attention. Most of your negative thoughts fall apart when subjected to rigorous interrogation. Let's unlock this third code through powerful questions that have unmasked toxic thoughts for over 2,000 years. Is this true? Not what seems true, but what is factually verifiable. Your thought, "I always fail," can be challenged with concrete evidence of past successes. How do I know this is true? This question forces you to examine the sources of your beliefs. We often find that our fears are based on assumptions, not facts. What real evidence do I have? Thoughts like, "Everyone judges me," rarely stand up to an honest analysis of the available evidence. Does this thought help or hurt me? Even if something is partially true, if the thought doesn't serve to move you toward your goals, it doesn't deserve space in your mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced this questioning in his personal diary, analyzing his own reactions and thoughts with the objectivity of a judge. He discovered that many of his fears were phantoms created by the mind. Your third exercise: choose a recurring negative thought and subject it to these 4 questions. Write the answers on paper. You will be surprised at how much these thoughts lose their power when confronted with the light of reason. This third unlocked code transforms you from a victim of your thoughts to a seeker of truth. But there is an even more subtle skill we need to develop: the art of being present when negative thoughts try to hijack you. You've mastered control, perspective, and questioning. Now it's time to unlock the 4th code: the ability to create space between yourself and your thoughts by observing them before they overwhelm you. Stoic mindfulness differs from traditional mindfulness because it seeks not just inner peace but preparation for virtuous action. It is an active vigilance, an advanced guard that protects your mind from unnecessary intrusions. Epictetus taught his students to develop what we might call an inner sentinel, a part of the consciousness that is always alert, observing the flow of thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. This is the essence of the 4th code: you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. When a negative thought arises, most people immediately identify with it. I am anxious, I am sad, I am a failure. But the practitioner of Stoic mindfulness learns to create distance. I am observing an anxious thought. There is sadness present. My mind is producing self-criticism. This subtle shift in language creates a revolution in experience. You go from being the thought to being the observer of the thought. And the observer always has a choice. The Stoic pause technique works like this. When you notice a negative thought coming up, stop for 3 seconds. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, What's going on in my mind right now? Observe without judgment. Then consciously choose your next action. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, creating small moments of reflection throughout the day. He developed what we call metacognition, the ability to think about one's own thinking. During conflicts, instead of reacting automatically, he created space to choose the wisest response. In moments of pressure, instead of being overcome by anxiety, he observed the anxiety and decided how to proceed. Your fourth exercise. For the next 3 days, practice the Stoic pause whenever you notice an intense thought or emotion. Don't try to change anything, just observe and breathe. You are training the muscle of awareness. This fourth unlocked code gives you the superpower of conscious presence. But there are times when even observation is not enough, when we need an even broader perspective to put our problems in their proper place. With 4 codes already unlocked, you have powerful tools to deal with negative thoughts. But there are times when anxiety is so intense, worry so overwhelming, that we need a broader perspective to restore balance. Here we come to the 5th code, perhaps the most profound and transformative of all, memento mori. Remember that you are going to die. Before you think this is morbid, let me explain why this reflection is actually profoundly liberating. The Stoics discovered that awareness of mortality brings not sadness, but clarity. When you truly internalize that your life is temporary, that all your current problems are fleeting, something extraordinary happens. You stop giving excessive importance to things that ultimately don't matter. Marcus Aurelius, even though he was the most powerful man in the world, wrote constantly about impermanence. He knew that his position, his achievements, even his most pressing concerns were temporary. This perspective freed him to focus on what really mattered. The 5th unlocked code works through the temporal relativization technique. When a negative thought dominates your mind, ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Next week? Next month? In 5 years? On my deathbed? That argument that's consuming your mental energy today, will it matter next week? That criticism you received at work, will it matter next year? That opportunity you missed, will it matter when you're 80? This is not a technique of denial or minimization of real problems. It is an emotional calibration tool that restores the proper proportion between the intensity of your suffering and the real importance of the situation. Seneca practiced a fascinating exercise. He would regularly imagine that he was on his last day of life and evaluate his current worries from that perspective. Most of them would simply disappear, revealing themselves as unnecessary drama. Your 5th exercise. Write down your 3 biggest current worries. Now imagine yourself at 90 years old, looking back. What would this wiser you say about those worries? This 5th unlocked code gives you the power of temporal perspective, freeing you from the mental prisons created by problems that are smaller than they seem. But even with this broad perspective, we still need to develop a more subtle skill, the ability to observe our thoughts as external phenomena, creating the necessary distance for conscious choices. You've already mastered 5 powerful codes, but now we're going to unlock perhaps the most subtle and transformative of all, the ability to completely separate yourself from your thoughts, seeing them as events happening in your consciousness, not as part of your identity. Most people live identified with every thought that comes their way. If they think, I'm a failure, they believe they are a failure. If they think, nobody loves me, they feel truly unloved. But the Stoics discovered something revolutionary. There is a fundamental difference between having a thought and being the thought. This 6th code teaches you to activate what we call the inner observer, a part of your consciousness that remains always serene, always centered, always able to observe the mental drama without being swept away by it. Marcus Aurelius developed a fascinating technique we call the third-person perspective. Instead of thinking, I am anxious, he would write, Marcus is observing anxiety in his mind. This simple shift in language created instant psychological distance. When you learn to be the observer of your thoughts instead of being the thoughts, something magical happens. You realize that thoughts are like clouds in the sky of your consciousness. They arise, morph, and disappear, but the sky remains untouched. The inner reporter technique works like this. When a negative thought arises, Imagine that you are a neutral journalist reporting on what is happening in your mind. Instead of, I am feeling desperate, think, I notice that desperate thoughts are arising in my consciousness. Instead of, I am a terrible person, notice, there is self-criticism present in my mind space right now. This subtle but powerful shift transforms you from a victim of your thoughts to a scientific observer of your own mental experience. And observers always have a choice. Epictetus, even though he was a slave, developed total inner freedom through this practice. He knew that even though his body could be controlled by others, his inner experience remained sovereign when he maintained the position of observer. Seneca used a powerful metaphor: thoughts are like visitors in your home. You can observe them, evaluate them, decide whether to serve them tea or ask them to leave. But you don't have to become the visitors. Your sixth exercise for 1 week: practice observer language. Whenever you notice intense emotions or thoughts, describe them as phenomena you are observing, not as part of who you are. This sixth unlocked code gives you ultimate freedom, the ability to consciously choose which thought deserves your attention and which should be gently dismissed. With this new skill of detached observation, you are ready to discover how to transform any negative situation into an opportunity to develop your noblest character. Now that you have mastered the art of observing your thoughts without identifying with them, it is time to unlock the seventh code, transforming every adverse situation into a gym for the development of your noblest character. The Stoics identified 4 fundamental virtues that serve as powerful filters to reframe any negative thoughts: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These are not abstract concepts, but practical tools for mental transformation that can be applied instantly. When Marcus Aurelius faced political betrayal, military revolt, or devastating personal loss, he did not ask himself, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "How can I use this situation to practice virtue?" This shift in perspective transformed obstacles into opportunities for growth. Wisdom teaches you to ask, "What can I learn from this situation?" Instead of complaining about criticism, you can use wisdom to extract valuable insights that will help you grow. Every difficult person becomes a teacher. Every problem becomes a lesson. Justice invites you to ask, "How can I act for the greater good in this situation?" When someone mistreats you, instead of retaliating in anger, you can choose to respond in a way that contributes to a better world. You become an agent of elevation, not demotion. Courage challenges you. What is the most courageous action I can take here? In the face of fear, instead of paralyzing yourself, you can use that emotion as fuel to do what needs to be done. Fear transforms from an obstacle into a springboard. Temperance asks you, "How can I respond with balance and self-control?" In moments of intense anger or uncontrolled desire, you can choose moderation while keeping your dignity and integrity intact. Epictetus taught that every difficult situation comes with an implicit question from the universe. Do you want to become stronger or weaker? Wiser or more ignorant? More virtuous or more mediocre? Your circumstances are votes of cosmic confidence in your ability to grow. Seneca practiced a powerful exercise at the end of each day. He reviewed challenging moments and identified which virtue he could have applied better. Not as self-punishment, but as training for future situations. Magic happens when you stop seeing problems as personal attacks and start seeing them as exercise equipment for your soul. That difficult person at work? Equipment for training patience. That difficult financial situation? Equipment for developing creativity and resilience. Your seventh exercise: choose a current situation that is generating negative thoughts. Apply each of the 4 virtues. What does wisdom teach me? How does justice guide me? What courage do I need to demonstrate? What temperance do I need to practice? This 7th unlocked code transforms you from a victim of circumstance to an athlete of character, using each challenge to sculpt a stronger, nobler version of yourself. But to consolidate all these transformations, you need a daily practice that integrates all the codes into a coherent system of personal development. With 7 codes already unlocked, you have a powerful arsenal of mental tools at your disposal. But how do you ensure that these techniques become an automatic part of your life, rather than just cool concepts that you forget when you need them most? Here we come to the 8th code, the practice of the nightly Stoic journal, one of the most powerful tools ever developed for the systematic transformation of the human mind. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, devoted time each night to writing down personal reflections. These notes became the famous Meditations, not a book intended for publication, but the private laboratory where he processed his thoughts and refined his character. The difference between a regular journal and a Stoic journal is the structure. Instead of simply venting about problems, you use 3 transformative questions that integrate all the codes we've learned. First question: what did I try to control today that was out of my control? This question applies the first code, helping you identify where you wasted mental energy and how to redirect your focus tomorrow. Second question: what different perspectives can I apply to today's challenges? Here you practice the codes of reframing, Socratic questioning, and temporal relativization, transforming problems into opportunities for growth. Third question: how can I apply the 4 virtues to the most challenging situation I face today? This is part of the 7th code, transforming every difficulty into character training. Seneca discovered that writing about negative experiences has an almost magical power to neutralize their emotional charge. When you put thoughts on paper, they lose their power to obsessively circulate in your mind. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics discovered 2,000 years ago. Reflective writing literally rewires neural connections, creating new, healthier thought patterns. The process is simple. Set aside 10 minutes before bed. Answer the 3 questions in writing. Don't write to impress anyone, write to process and grow. This time will become the most valuable time of your day. Your 8th exercise: start today. Grab a notebook and answer the 3 questions about today. Commit to this practice for 30 days and watch your mind gradually transform. This 8th unlocked code creates an automatic system of personal growth, ensuring that each day contributes to your inner evolution. But there is a common confusion about Stoicism that we need to clear up. Many people think that accepting means giving up, when in fact it is quite the opposite. We come to the 9th code, perhaps the most misunderstood of all. Many people reject Stoicism because they believe that acceptance means passivity, conformity, or giving up. This is one of the greatest distortions of Stoic philosophy, and it is time to dethrone this myth once and for all. Stoic radical acceptance is not passive resignation, it is the first step toward effective action. It is the difference between fighting reality and working with it. And that difference can determine whether you remain stuck in cycles of suffering or become a powerful agent of change. Imagine you are driving along the road and you come across a collapsed bridge. Passive resignation would be to sit in the car and give up on the journey. Radical acceptance would be to instantly acknowledge, the bridge is collapsed, that's a fact. And then, from that total acceptance of reality, you find alternative routes. Marcus Aurelius faced devastating plagues, political betrayals, and military revolts. He never wasted time denying these realities or lamenting how things should be. He fully accepted what was happening and then directed all his energy toward the most effective response possible. The 9th unlocked code works through the fundamental Stoic formula: complete acceptance plus virtuous action equals real power. When you stop wasting energy fighting immutable facts, that energy is freed up for actions that can actually make a difference. Epictetus, even as a slave, never passively accepted his condition in a resigned way. He accepted the reality of being another man's property, but he used this acceptance as a platform to develop an inner freedom that no master could touch. His acceptance generated the most powerful action possible, the complete transformation of his inner experience. The inner yes technique works like this. When faced with a difficult situation, mentally say yes to the current reality. Not, yes, I like this, but, yes, this is happening. This yes is not approval, it is recognition. And only from the full recognition of reality can you act truly effectively. Seneca discovered that mental resistance to circumstances creates a double suffering: the suffering of the situation itself plus the additional suffering of resisting the situation. Acceptance eliminates this additional suffering, leaving you free to deal only with the concrete reality. Your 9th exercise: identify a situation in your life that you are struggling with mentally. Practice saying yes to the current reality of that situation. Notice how this acceptance does not weaken you, but frees you to take more powerful action. This ninth unlocked code transforms you from a fighter against reality to a collaborator with it, exponentially multiplying your power to create positive change. With this new healthy relationship between acceptance and action, you are ready for the final code, the one that will integrate everything into a powerful narrative of personal transformation. We've reached the 10th and final code, the one that has the power to transform your personal story from a series of random events into an epic journey of growth and self-discovery. This is the code of resilient storytelling, the ability to recount your own life in a way that empowers you rather than diminishes you. The story you tell yourself determines who you become. If your internal narrative is, "I'm an unlucky person who always struggles," you'll keep finding evidence to confirm that story. But if your narrative is, "I'm someone who thrives on challenges," every obstacle becomes confirmation of your ability to overcome. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature. We are creatures of stories. Our identity is shaped by the narrative we construct around our experiences. And as the authors of our own story, we have the power to choose which story to tell. Marcus Aurelius could have seen himself as a victim of difficult circumstances, orphaned at a young age, forced to shoulder enormous responsibilities, facing constant war and devastating personal loss. Instead, he chose to see himself as a student of the universe, someone who was being prepared to serve ever more wisely. The 10th unlocked code works through the Stoic hero's journey technique. You rewrite your personal story not as a sequence of things that happened to you, but as a series of tests and initiations that are forging a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of who you are. That painful betrayal you suffered? It wasn't just something bad that happened, it was the moment you learned to trust your own inner strength. That devastating financial loss? It wasn't just a failure, it was the moment you discovered inner resources you didn't even know you had. Seneca regularly practiced rewriting his difficult experiences, looking for the thread of growth in each chapter of his life. He discovered that even his greatest pains had contributed to his wisdom and compassion. The technique works like this: take a negative experience from your life. Now answer these questions: what strengths did this experience reveal in you? What wisdom did it bring? How did it prepare you to help others? What virtues did you develop as a result of going through it? You're not denying the pain or pretending that bad things are good. You're recognizing that even from the most difficult experiences can emerge growth, wisdom, and strength. You're becoming the hero of your own story, not the victim. Epictetus turned his experience of slavery into the foundation of a philosophy that has liberated millions of minds throughout history. His narrative was not, "I am a victim of injustice," but, "I am one who has discovered inner freedom in the most restrictive circumstances." Your 10th exercise: write a page about your life as if it were the story of a hero who faces challenges to become stronger and wiser. What lessons did each difficult chapter bring? What superpowers did you develop? This 10th unlocked code transforms you into the conscious author of your own story, creating a narrative that strengthens you with each rereading. Here we are, at the end of an extraordinary journey. You are no longer the same person who started watching this video. 10 mental codes have been unlocked in your mind, 10 keys have been placed in your hands, 10 doors have been opened to a new way of living. Let's quickly recap what we've achieved together. You've learned to distinguish between the controllable and the uncontrollable, to choose empowering perspectives, to question toxic thoughts, to observe your mind with conscious presence, to use temporal perspective to relativize problems, to distance yourself psychologically from your thoughts, to transform obstacles into training and virtues, to process experiences through Stoic journaling, to radically accept in order to act effectively, and to build resilient narratives about your own life. These are not just pretty concepts, they are practical tools tested by over 2,000 years of application. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca faced challenges that would dwarf any of us in comparison to their own, and yet they maintained serenity, wisdom, and inner strength. But here's the most important truth: knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. Pick 2 or 3 codes that resonate with you the most and start applying them today. Over the next 30 days, gradually incorporate all 10 codes into your daily routine. Your negative thoughts won't magically disappear, but they will lose their power to control you. You will become the master of your own mental experience, the architect of your own feelings, the author of your own story. The transformation begins now. Your negative thoughts are waiting to become your teachers. Use the codes, practice the techniques, and discover the strongest and wisest version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to receive new videos every week, okay? See you next time.